What's up, party people? It's Nita here with Unruly Growth, reporting live from hell. Yes. This video is for my insomniacs, like myself. I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about the struggle, and if you know, you know, right? So, I've been dealing with chronic insomnia pretty much all this year. Now, I'm hoping towards the end of this year, as we are approaching, things will change. Fingers crossed. But it's been hard, y'all. It really is. But I keep going. I keep trying to find a solution. I'm not giving up on myself, and don't you give up on yourself. Let's do a little story time. So, this year in January, I finished up my degree. I got my associates in arts with an emphasis in psychology. I also had finished up my certification as a professional life coach. And I took a college algebra class, and this class really, I don't know what it is, man. It really did a number on me. It really did. I was so stressed. I was, dealing with anxiety. I was unable to concentrate, and it's like my brain wouldn't work the way it needed to. And man, I would give 110%. I would do all the right things as a student. I would, do tutoring. I would spend hours upon hours studying and doing homework each week. I'd meet with my professor for help. I'd be communicating back and forth with him. It was still hell on earth for me. Now, the second half of my semester is when I started to develop problems with my sleep that was much more, that was lasting a lot longer than just a few days. Now, everybody goes through periods of time when they struggle with sleep, right? And usually, normally, it's a phase, right? It's something that comes and goes. But if you're one of the unlucky ones, like myself, sometimes that stuff likes to linger around, and it can go from being a few days to a few weeks to a few months to even a few years. And so I was experiencing insomnia in a way I hadn't before. So I'm talking with my therapist during this whole time, and she's like, a lot of what you telling me, your mind just being wired, and especially at night, and you're ruminating, you're having racing thoughts. And she said, you know what? I think you have ADHD. And I'm like, really? And I was like, you know what? Like, I was diagnosed with it at one point a few years ago. I had a primary care doctor. She suspected I had ADHD as well, and she hooked me up with the behavioral specialist, which they gave me a questionnaire, and the lady was like, "Yes, you have it." I was put on Vyvanse, which wasn't really great for me. So I have bipolar 2 disorder, and they put me on the Vyvanse, which is a stimulant, but it was supposed to be more helpful and beneficial with those who do have bipolar disorder. It was to help prevent, those manic episodes and whatnot. But it did cause manic episodes for me. Now, as bipolar 2 disorder, I don't typically get full blown manic episodes. I get what's called hypomanic episodes, which you have a lot of the same symptoms as manic, but they are less severe. I don't need to be hospitalized or anything like that. I'm typically able to continue to live my life. I'm just in a really wired state. I was taken off of that, and I was on the low dose, the lowest dose when I started the Vyvanse. So I was taken off of that. That's years and years ago. Fast forward this year. So I brought it up with my psychiatrist. He gave me a questionnaire, and I didn't meet the criteria for ADHD. Took that back to my therapist. My therapist disagreed 100%. She was like, "No, I really, really believe you have this." But anyway, we continue on a few months. No treatment for it. But then things got a little bit more crazy, And especially with the disruption with my sleep because of the racing thoughts, I was like, I can't keep living like this. I'm not able to get good quality sleep. I'm struggling. So I go back to my doctor and I'm telling him about the sleep struggles. Um, and also I provided more details about why I suspected I might have had ADHD based off, things that I've observed and also things my therapist who I've seen for over a year at that point that she's observed. Then he said, you know what? Yeah, that does sound like ADHD. Let's, start exploring some medication to, help relieve some of these symptoms. So I was put on guanfacine, which is, I believe it's a blood pressure medication, but the off label is used for ADHD. And, it's used a lot with kids, they said. Typically, they start people off on a low dose, and a lot of times that does it with the low dose. So I started the low dose, advised to take it at night because it's supposed to make me sleepy. So that was the thing. So this will help with the ADHD symptoms that you were having during the day, but it would also help you hopefully be able to sleep at night. And it did for a few days. And then the insomnia came back. And I wasn't noticing any changes with any of the ADHD symptoms. I was still having the racing thoughts. I was still really fidgety. I was still unable to concentrate. It was hard for me to retain information. So we increased the dosage. Still not much of a change, still not much of a difference. And I felt like the medicine was actually making my insomnia worse. That's not working. So then he paired it up with trazodone, which is, I believe, is an antidepressant, but the off label, it can be used for sleep. So I was on a low dosage of that. I was taking, and I'm taking it now, 25 milligrams of that with the guanfacine. It's not doing anything. So then I meet with him again. He says, okay, well, let's try taking it in the morning and, the trazodone at night. Now that time, I didn't really tell him that the trazodone wasn't working because I just think I just started it, or maybe it was the last time I met with him. I started the trazodone. I think that might have been it. So I meet with him again in a few weeks, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, let's just ditch both of these medications. I don't think they're helping. What else do you got for me, doc? I've had to just really experiment with things. Um, I did meet with one of my primary care physicians. So I have two. I have my primary care doctor's actual doctor, but honey girl is always booked and busy and she's hard to get in with. I have a nurse practitioner that I see. I went to her and I was telling her how I was having, fatigue during the day, which has actually gotten better for some reason. I don't, I am in the morning, I'm pretty, awake, but around 1 p.m., between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., almost every day during the week, it seems like only during the week when I'm at work, I get really tight. I get the itis. And I think that's pretty normal. I think a lot of people around lunchtime, energy levels start to dip a little bit. But she was like, well, let's get you into a sleep study and see if you have sleep apnea. Now I'm talking to her and she's, describing what it is to me. And I'm, smiling in her face. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do that. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to do that sleep study because I don't think I really fit the criteria for it. I'm not struggling to breathe. I don't snore at night. I am a light sleeper. So if I snored, I really felt like I would wake myself up. My issues with sleep really is mental. It's because my mind is so wired. Now, I do have a problem with getting up multiple times throughout the night to use the restroom, but even that is a mental problem for me because I get these obsessive thoughts about going to use the restroom even when I don't have to. When I wake up in the middle of the night, usually it's a toss and turn, usually, or I'm just changing positions. I sleep on my side, and I might be changing, sides. And then my mind immediately takes advantage of that to start to wire up and start the engines every time. It's mental, it's the brain inability to turn off. I'm not gasping for air. I'm not, um, I research sleep apnea and I don't have many of the symptoms. I only have those two, which is the insomnia and the waking up to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. But I don't know if I'm going to do that sleep study or not. I really don't want any more medical debt, y'all. I have it because, especially last year, dealing with so many different health issues, I had to go to the doctor a lot, and I've just accumulated a lot of medical debt that I'm trying to get out of. And I really don't want to unnecessarily spend money that I feel is not really for me. But we'll see because I'm so desperate at this point. I'm willing to try anything. So that's where I'm at right now. And there have been for the past maybe 2 weeks, this past week and last week, I actually had to take off days from work because I went multiple nights without having to get any sleep. Usually I'm able to get anywhere between maybe 4 5 hours of sleep, if that. But when I have nights and I have them multiples in a row where I don't get any sleep, that those are the nights that really affect me in the morning where I'm not able to function. I don't know. I don't know. It is tough. It is tough. It really feels like a slow death when you're not able to sleep. And it's a constant trial of different things, and it can get really discouraging when you try so many things and they don't work. And I got sober, over a year ago because I wanted to put my health first. I mean, I also had a problem, that's the number one thing. And I was fearing that the drinking was actually causing or making some of my medical issues worse. And I really just wanted to get better. I just want to be able to be comfortable in my own body. So it's hard, man. It really is. Some things that I have tried that I have found some results in, and that's the thing too. I'll try things, and one day it'll work for me, and the next day I do it and it doesn't. But what I did recently that really helped, I would take the guanfacine in the morning, and I would take half of 5 milligrams of melatonin at night. And I did that one day, and that really helped a lot. And I've noticed that, the thing with melatonin, though, and this always happens to me, melatonin gets me to sleep, but it doesn't keep me asleep. And it's really hit and miss for me because sometimes it won't even do that. But some days it'll work its ass off and it does what it's supposed to, and other days it doesn't. I have certain routines that I do, like I take a shower an hour before bed every night. I love showers, especially for me. I deal with chronic pain. The showers really help with my muscles to help them relax. I'm trying to be more consistent in doing yoga at night, stretching my body out, getting it ready for bed. When I do that, that can be helpful. Journaling is always a good thing. I'm not consistent with it like I used to be, so I'm trying to get back in the habit of that, even if it just means maybe I do a couple of prompts or something, or take a piece of paper and write out all my thoughts, all my random thoughts, trying to get as many thoughts as possible out of my head before bed. Not gonna lie to you, that's hit and miss too, because my the thing with my brain is it can find something to think about. I mean, every suggestion in the book, every holistic suggestion that you can think of, I've pretty much tried if I'm able to, and it don't do nothing for me. And I realize, a lot of the suggestions that people talk about when it comes to sleep is really for like the standard person that maybe deals with insomnia here and there. I don't think a lot of those things are really meant for people who have it really in a chronic way. And I also think people are different, and some things work for some and not so much for others. And I know there are things on the list they tell you not to do, that not doing those things actually don't work for me, but doing them does. One example of that is screen time before bed. So before I go to bed, and this has always been my routine for several years, even when I was sleeping peacefully and soundly, this has always been my routine. I watch ASMR videos before bed, or I'll watch maybe satisfying videos or something like that. But Those videos get me to sleep almost every time. Do I stay asleep? That's the problem. But they get me to sleep. They make me tired. They get me relaxed. So I say, scratch that. Screen time for me. Now, what I do is I turn my TV on the low, like the brightness. I turn it all the way down. And sometimes I'll even turn the saturation down too. So now, the screen is darker, the room is dark, of course, and that helps. Some suggestions they would also say, maybe read a book before bed. That doesn't work for me. That actually it wakes my brain up. It does not relax my brain. It gets it fired up. Meditations, they've always suggested that maybe that'll help. I don't do them consistently, so that's probably why I'm not getting results from it. So here's something that was really strange to happen the other night. I was doing a breathing meditation, breathing exercise, and it made me really anxious about how I was breathing all of a sudden because I was thinking about the sleep apnea. And then I became overly aware of my breath, worrying that I wasn't breathing right. Luckily, that passed because that was a pain in the ass. But speaking of anxiety, because of not being able to sleep and, trying to do all of these things to try to get you to sleep, which I also learned when you try to sleep, is you get a rebound effect. You end up not sleeping because you're trying too hard. But on the nights when I'm not worried about getting sleep and I'm just like, hey, if I get it, great. If I don't, it is what it is. And I tend to get more hours of sleep on those nights when I'm not so worried about getting enough sleep, you know. And then sometimes, you gotta surrender. You just gotta give into it. And you're just like, hey, at this point, it is what it is, which is a lesson in life, right? Accept where you are right now, accept what is, and go from there. So that's where I'm at right now. If you can relate, please leave a comment. Let me know what your experience has been like, what has worked for you. Sometimes it's also good just to know that somebody else is going through what you going through. And hey, we can suffer in hell together, right? But don't give up on yourself. I'm not going to give up on me. I'm going to keep trying. And this too shall pass, as they say.